Hi everyone, I'm here with Christopher Ruane, who is an augmented reality artist and photographer from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He specializes in massive photo and video montages and has also created his own mixed reality app called Art, which is available on iTunes and Google Play. I know Chris actually from my alma mater high school. We both went to Franklin Regional, so I feel very lucky today to be talking to a classmate who has grown into being this incredible artist. He's won numerous awards, has had his work showcased in Pittsburgh in various galleries, including the Andy Warhol Museum. And he has done some work also on biblical stories, the modern interpretations of biblical stories. And he's moved into some other ideas and research that I'm really excited to learn about today. Thank you, Chris, for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here with you today and look forward to talking with you about my artwork and anything else that we can kind of think of talking about.
The concept of augmented reality, what is that?
Well, augmented reality, basically in the simplest way, is pairing something in the real world with something that is created by an artist. You have a real world element like a picture or an advertisement, and then you use your app on a smartphone or device and you point it at that subject. And then an alternate reality is formed over top of the existing. So where you have the real world piece, I create images, like you said, with many, many layers, and that's how I've kind of started into this. Augmented reality really just kind of fit into what I was already doing. And with my images that I make in all of these different layers, I now program the different layers to do what I want them to do. So when you would use one of my images that is AR active, you would download the app and you point the phone at the image, and wherever you're at, the image will come to life and actually leave the piece and be a part of your 3D space. I was just creating images, like I said, with lots and lots and lots of layers. I would take tons of photographs. But it wasn't until I saw Pokemon Go, and then Crayola had an app where you could look at one of their coloring books, and you would color the picture, and then it would move. So at that point, I realized that with my images, that I had the ability to do that same thing if I just could teach myself how to create this app that would recognize my work and would tell my layers what to do. So yeah, it was just kind of an inspiration. It was just kind of like a first taste of the technology, and then from there, with the Pokemon Go and all that stuff, it just became so obvious that that's what I had to do. I always had this idea of being more a part of the work, of people being engulfed in the work. I used to go very, very large scale with my pieces in an attempt to do that. And people would get a lot out of it, but I still found that they weren't seeing all of the things that I wanted them to see and all of the work that was put into it. So I think with the addition of the AR, it gives a whole nother part of the work that couldn't be seen otherwise.
That to me is just so fascinating, because the reality that you see in front of you, yet you are kind of proposing that there's an alternate reality that what you're seeing is connected to. Is that coming from a different dimension, or?
Well, I think that augmented reality is very open. When I usually show people the work and show people what it can do and the capabilities of augmented reality, I find that hours later they'll sort of call me back and say, hey, that applies to this or that applies to this. And I tell them the truth is it applies to almost everything we can think of, or it can, which could be a negative thing or it could be a positive thing. And I can give you an example. Say we are on a bus and we're riding, to work, and we look out the window and we see we need a place to stay, or we need to eat at a restaurant for lunch. We take out the phone, we point it at a restaurant, and it could say, what's on special for the day. It could show you the reviews. It could show you all that information. The hotel room, we could look at a building, and you could see what room in the hotel is open and for how much money. So from that standpoint, some people might view that as a positive thing, but with advertising, if we are constantly bombarded with this information that we may not want, I think it can get to be out of control. So I've approached augmented reality a little bit differently, where I look at it more as an art form and less as a gimmick or way of engaging kind of like a buyer or through advertising.
Does this art form have a healing aspect to it? Can it be healing, or is it more of like something that you're integrating within your psyche about your experience and what you're seeing?
I think the best way to answer that would be to show you a small example in a minute. But what I will say is I think art is healing in general. A lot of my work that I do, I have several bodies of work, but one of the most important to me bodies of work is the Sacred Art Modern World series. And those are mostly composited images of thousands and thousands of images to tell a biblical story. So at first I didn't want to introduce AR with that concept, because I thought that I didn't want it to be misunderstood as magic or come off as hokey. So I kind of brought it into my initial work, some other bodies of work, and then I'm starting to move it more into my spiritual work. And I do think that when you see it, I'm going to show you an image called Jacob's Ladder. The original piece is very simple compared to my other works. My other works, a lot of them have thousands and thousands of layers, where I made Jacob very simple so that it would force you to use the augmented reality to see more, to bring more out of it. Okay, so let's look at this image. This is Jacob's Ladder. Okay, so this was created. Here you can see a little bit of the story of Jacob's Ladder. If you know the story, Jacob falls asleep, and then he has his dream where he sees angels ascending and descending on a ladder, and God speaks to him and tells him that he will become the seed for all the people of the earth, the 12 tribes of Israel. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make this more of an experience for people, because I think that it's interesting to see Jacob experience this, but wouldn't it be more interesting to see us experience it? So here's Jacob, and if you use your app and you point it at the screen, you can start to see he wakes up, and then the image actually leaves the picture, and the angels start to come outwards in the gallery space where you're at. And the view we're looking at right now is straight on, but when you're in the gallery, you can walk around this piece. You can see the extension ladder, and when it comes out to the viewer and extends it, the ladder extends out to you, that's when it becomes really, really interactive, because we become a participant. And we can see all of the flowers growing and regrowing, and all those different flowers represent the different tribes of Israel. There's always hidden meaning in all the work that I try to create.
That is amazing.
Thank you. It's more cool whenever you're in the space. Once you have control and you're holding the phone in your hand, and a lot of people will say, well, why would I want to be separated from artwork with a phone screen? And at first I would have to agree with that. But if you have the control in your hand to walk around a piece in your physical space as someone else stands next to you, or you can see that image alongside that person next to it, there's something it does with our brain that connects to that work a little bit more, I think. I can show you another example. This is one that I did called Future Gardens, and it's Phipps Conservatory. The music has been taken out of this one, so I'll kind of explain it a little bit more. But we can see that we have finally combined nature and technology in this perfect form. But as we look at the future of what Future Phipps is, we start to notice glitches. We start to notice that it's not real, and this is actually what has occurred. So it was really just a program to hide our fatal mistakes. So there's a lot you can do with this technology, and I think that I'm just being able to scratch the surface of it. In 2019, I did a show called Visions out in Hollywood, and we did a show, but the really important part of it was we actually started to stream it online on different places, and you could watch the image on your television, and you could actually see these episodes where they would leave the television and be in your home. So kind of trying to bypass this thing where we need this huge goggles on our face, this lonely thing where, we're seeing VR, which is a great technology, but trying to use the existing things that we have today, like our smartphone and our television and pictures, to bring an experience to life. This is something I did in conjunction with the New Media Film Festival as well, kind of like bringing a new form of artwork to your home. So we'll check that out. The Vision series is a unique and interactive experience that brings cinematic-style augmented reality to the masses. Communicated through the medium of television and brought to life through audience participation in a specially designed smartphone tablet app, the series brings us closer to the content than ever before. The aesthetics and process alone create unique and original environments that seem photorealistic but dreamlike in their execution. Combining properties of film, animation, photography, and augmented reality, artist Christopher Ruane creates his own original style that cannot be categorized. Using thousands of complex and meaningful scenes, this groundbreaking approach to mixed reality takes the viewer into a world that is beyond one's own and into the mind of contemporary artists. The 8-episode series evokes strong emotions with its symbolism concerning topics of mortality, human impact on our environment, freedom of expression, and religion. Throughout the series, a bigger picture emerges, and we have become a willing participant in an interactive journey. In the coming years, artists will start to integrate mixed reality in many creative ways to enhance people's viewing experience. Visions is just the first, and simply uses technology that everyone already has to bring this new method to larger audiences today. In some episodes, the user can also take screenshots of friends or family in the same environment as 3D content to share with others online, and even take the experience with them on the go, changing the whole feel of the work and creating new photo opportunities. Visions is a huge step forward in the deployment of AR and storytelling, and that it expands the experience from personal space as an extension of the screen and paves the way for further advancement. No VR glasses. Visions gives us a rare glimpse and paves the way for the next generation of communication and art.
What I love about this is that you really tap into the concept of that we're not just the gross reality around us. It's not just like we see this lamp here or this table. There's a subtle reality there, and that's what really appeals to me. And I think different people will get different things out of it. You also do photography.
I do. Everything that I do has grown out of photography. I was a purist photographer, 4x5. I was into the dark room and 100% against anything that was digital. I couldn't stand anything that was, I felt like it was cheating. But when I got out of school, I had no choice. The expenses and Driving out to Pittsburgh to print for a half hour wasn't doing it for me. I needed to be able to really spend some time with these thoughts, these artworks that I had. So I started moving into slight tweaks in digital and hid it and kind of didn't let anybody know for a while until I felt comfortable. Initially not wanting anything to do with it, and then realizing slowly that the power of it was just so amazing to me that I could tell a deeper story. I could tell a deeper story through the creation of a digital piece, and now I can tell a deeper story with the addition of the augmented reality. And to take it a step further than that, I'm now working with the new version of the app. There's actually one image on the app now that is interactive through rotation, touch rotation. So I created this image called The Sun and the Wind, and you can actually see it. It's an island that's floating out in front of you, and you can touch it, and you can move it around and kind of photograph it in different ways to create your own scene. So using the elements of the piece of artwork that I created, you can now create your own version of it. So that's part of the progression of it. And in the next version of the app, which I'm producing right now, more interaction is what I'm looking for. So to take it to another level.
With your Sacred Art Modern World exhibition, you are including, like you said, the biblical stories of Joseph, like you showed, and so forth. What is your motivation behind including those stories?
Artwork, the art world isn't particularly in love with the idea of religion and the idea of anything that sort of holds you back or has rules. People want to be freed of all of those things, and I understand that. But for me, when my mother passed away, a completely different reaction to that than I think a lot of people do. I think when people die, sometimes they view it as life not being fair, or there's an immense sadness to it, so we sort of get angry. But for me, I don't know why, but it made me closer to God. And as I investigated that and delved deeper into that and went deeper into it, and it's still something that I have to reach for. It's still something that I have to find. It's an ongoing process, and my artwork, I feel like, brings me closer to God and brings me closer to my faith, and it helps me communicate those things to other people. And the importance of those stories and those sacred stories to me are sometimes lost, because when we look at those stories, we can't relate to the people in them. They are kind of from a whole different time period, at different sort of problems than we have now. But when you look at the spirit of those stories and you really meditate on them and you really investigate them, you can see them in the world today, very obviously. And I feel like the same rules apply, and we play out the same things over and over again. And I think they're worth telling.
That's really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you. Right now, I'm working on the newest part of the app, like I said, with more interaction. And I'm doing some work with the International Free Expression Project, which is a really interesting project here in Pittsburgh that I think is great for the future of the city, and also could be great for artists in the region as well. The old Pittsburgh Post-Gazette building, which is on the Boulevard of the Allies next to the Point downtown, was recently closed, and they moved to a more updated facility for kind of like the future. But that history of the American newspaper and sort of that whole story, and just seeing the old press room and trying to preserve that in some sort of way, being a part of that. So a gentleman named Greg Victor, who I've worked with before on some things, invited me into the press room before it was dismantled. And we're talking about tons and tons of steel here, paper machines, printing machines. And he invited me in to do some artwork on however I wanted to do it, just to kind of document it in a different way than just going through and photographing it. So I started exploring the history of the building and the people that work there, and the rich history and the images that I found were so inspiring. These men and women who worked there, I wanted to sort of let people experience time then and time now simultaneously. So I took these old photographs from the 1950s of the workers then and the closing images that I took and sort of combined them. So when you look at them through the app, you'll see the old printing press, lifeless, no light whatsoever, and then we'll see a light come on, and the spirit of a old press worker will be there just for that split moment, and then we see that he's sort of sucked up into the machine and becomes a part of this greater story. And that's what I kind of wanted to show through that work. And now working with Greg and others to create and get donors to create this marketplace of ideas, sort of a marketplace where artists can come and they can have space, musicians, there'll be a theater there. This is all stuff we're pushing for and trying to get people to fund. But the project's going well. There's a lot of people who are involved in it, and I'm just one small part of it. But it's a really inspiring project, and if it becomes a reality, I see it as a destination for Pittsburgh.
So artists can work in the old Pittsburgh Post-Gazette building?
Yeah, that's the plan. They have a new owner there who's been very nice to the project and has agreed to a lot of the project, sort of trying to keep some of the press stuff and the history so that it can be a maker space and also could, you know, show you the history and preserve that history. And a lot of the work that I've been doing is focused on that. I just finished a piece for them called The Paper Man, and I took a paper machine where they load the paper from under the lowest level in the building, and it feeds up into this gigantic pulley system that goes up through the ceiling. And I wanted to recreate this machine so that it would exist around you, so that a person could see it being built around themselves and then have the worker come to life kind of in this workstation. I could show it to you if you like. So here we have the image, the actual image of the paper man. And you can see how it would look through the iPhone if you had it there. And the piece comes out in all of these pieces, and then we actually get to see it rebuilt around us. So yeah, that's the Paper Man. And it was interesting because that piece was supposed to be part of the Three Rivers Arts Festival Juried Visual Arts Exhibition, which typically is a very good show. And I was excited to be able to show an augmented reality piece at that venue because there would be a lot of visitors. But due to COVID, I decided that, since the exhibition was only going to be held virtually, I needed to create something to show what it would be like. So I actually created that space to mimic the space that it would would have been in, and kind of give you a virtual experience instead, where you can see what it may have looked like if you actually got to see it. Which is eerily kind of strange, because now in these times of COVID, we have to create the artwork, and then we have to create almost the environment in which we would maybe see it. I mean, if you see any of these online exhibitions, now we have to create artwork and we have to create virtual galleries. It's kind of another false reality that we're creating. It's a necessity, but also a strange one.
Definitely. And you also have prints available.
I do. I do sell prints. I sell limited edition prints in editions of 10. There's large-scale prints, and then anything below 18 inches is considered open edition. So my open editions can be found through InPrint, and those images are AR active through the app. It's called, all you have to do is look up or Google Play, Ruane ART, and it'll come up, and then you just download the app, and you can go to the InPrint section and just look at those images, and they'll come to life right off of your screen before you even purchase them. If you just want to see them and kind of experience them before you would buy them, you would simply download the app, go to the link, and point it right at the computer screen, and you will actually see the work leave your computer screen. It's very, very interesting. So here's the link. And
Perfect.
you can see that it's just ART, Christopher Ruane, but if you type in Ruane, it's the fastest way to find it, through my last name. My website here, ChristopherRuane.com, and this is the InPrint gallery. These are for the open edition, everything under 18 inches, and if you would like anything that is a limited edition, contact me through my website. I have another project on Instagram called Through Windows. For about 5 to 7 years, I've been taking images of my life through Windows. So it's just kind of a side project. It's like almost like a challenge. I'm challenging myself in a different way to see things in a little different way. But yeah, you can definitely check me out there. And like I said, if you wanted to go to InPrint, you would just look up InPrint, INPRNT. And once you have InPrint, you would just go to the gallery and type in my last name, Ruane. Like I said, everything in here is under 18 inches. Good Christmas presents, but all AR active. So for instance, we could go to the decline. If you wanted to just download the app and see, it's a free app, completely free online. You download it, you point the camera at the screen, and you will see the incline come back to life and leave your screen, and you will take a ride on the incline. So some really interesting stuff in here, some different concepts. There's some Pittsburgh work, some lighter work. There's some more serious work, some more in-depth work. Things like some Pittsburgh stuff that you would never see. This piece is called In Search Of. Very interesting work of art. A lot of people from Pittsburgh love it. Spent some time with it, finding different animals and sea creatures that I photographed. I did some travel photography a while back, and those were some of the interesting things I captured. This image was called The Sun and the Wind, the Fable of the Sun and the Wind. I talked to you about that one. That has the touch integration where you can rotate it and move it around. Some things to think about. But yeah, find some time exploring that, and if you have any questions about it, anybody can shoot me, any questions, or if they have trouble understanding how the app works. I know this is a new technology that people don't use all the time, and the more I can get people to use it and understand it, the better.
Thank you so much for sharing this. This is really, really cool, really interesting.
I really appreciate you having me. It was a great time being with you again, and I love working with you because of our history together, and I look forward to anything else we can do together in the future.
Sounds awesome. Definitely looking to collaborate.
Awesome. Thank you so much.